Admiral Ju Park stood rigidly at attention as the Galactic Assembly representatives finished reviewing Earth's fleet specifications. The massive amphitheater, designed to accommodate dozens of alien species, buzzed with barely contained laughter. "These propulsion systems are practically steam-powered," remarked Delegate Thrix, his translucent appendages waving dismissively. "And their armor plating would hardly withstand a training exercise," added Ambassador Volo, generating a ripple of chirping laughter from her eight-limbed colleagues. Jumu maintained her composure, though her knuckles whitened behind her back. Beside her, Engineer Hyun Lee kept his gaze fixed forward, jaw tight. "We grant Earth provisional trade status," announced the Assembly Chair, "but voting privileges and military cooperation are denied until sufficient technological advancement is demonstrated." The word stung more than Juwu wanted to admit. 6 years of preparation, of humanity's best minds working together to build a fleet worthy of the stars, dismissed in minutes by beings who had mastered interstellar travel centuries ago. The Assembly thanks Earth's representatives for their presentation. The chair continued, 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "You are dismissed." Juwu and Hyun bowed as protocol demanded, then turned to leave the central floor. The walk felt endless, boots echoing on the polished stone as whispers and translated chuckles followed them. A tall reptilian diplomat leaned toward his neighbor. "At least their uniforms are pretty," he hissed, not bothering to lower his voice. In the corridor outside, other Earth delegates waited with hopeful expressions that quickly fell as they saw Juwu's face. Commander Minho Kang stepped forward, his question dying before it reached his lips. "Pack up," Juwu ordered. "We leave in 1 hour." The team moved silently through the great halls of the assembly station. All around them, alien representatives from 100 worlds mingled, traded, argued, and negotiated. Humans were the newest species here, and by far the least advanced. The oldest members, like the crystalline Trill or the gaseous Foline, had been traveling between stars when humans were still figuring out agriculture. Back on their ship, the Earth delegation gathered in the conference room. 20 faces looked to Juwu, waiting for direction. "Well," she said finally. They laughed. "They didn't even look at half our designs," Hyun said, anger creeping into his voice. "The modular defense systems, the adaptive hull configurations." "They didn't need to," interrupted Science Officer Gina Ryu. "Our theoretical work is sound, but we can't prove any of it works on their scale yet." Minho slammed his fist on the table. "We've come farther in 50 years than they came in 500. They should respect that, at least." "Respect is earned in this arena," Ju said quietly. "We made the mistake of showing them what we thought would impress them, rather than what actually works." The room fell silent. "So what now, Admiral?" asked Diplomatic Officer Sun Wuchoi. "We return to Earth as failures." Juwu looked around at her team. The best minds humanity had to offer, chosen from every nation. People who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of what Earth could achieve. "No," she said firmly. "We return as students. We've been given provisional trade status. That means access to their markets, their tech, their materials. Limited access, but it's a start." She stood and walked to the view screen, activating it with a gesture. The vast assembly station filled the display. Hundreds of ships of all shapes and sizes docked alongside it. "Look at that engineering. Those designs. Every ship out there represents thousands of years of development. And now we get to study them all." Hyun joined her at the screen. "You're suggesting we, what, copy their homework?" Juwu smiled for the first time that day. "I'm suggesting we learn, then improve." "They think in straight lines, Hyun." They'd been advancing the same technologies along the same paths for millennia. But humans, we think around corners. Energy began to fill the room as the team caught her meaning. "We've always been good at taking existing tech and finding new applications," Minho said, nodding slowly. "Our strength isn't in our current capabilities," added Gina, It's in our adaptability, our creativity. Sun Wu leaned forward. So we use this trade status to gather information, materials, and examples. Then we build something they haven't seen before. Exactly, Ju said. We let them underestimate us. We smile and accept their condescension. And all the while, we build the fleet they never saw coming. Later, as the Earth ship disengaged from the station, Ju and Hyun stood on the observation deck. The assembly station grew smaller behind them, a glittering jewel against the backdrop of stars. They didn't even test our maneuverability designs, Hyun said, breaking the silence. No, Ju replied quietly, but they'll see them in action someday. She turned from the window. Get the team ready for a full debrief. I want detailed analysis of every ship we saw, every technology we can identify, every material we might be able to trade for. And then we go home and get to work. We have provisional status for 5 years before our next review. 5 years to build a fleet that will wipe the smug looks off their faces. Hyun raised an eyebrow. Is that what this is about? Revenge? Ju considered the question. No, it's about survival. The assembly isn't the only power out there. Hyun, I've seen the intelligence reports. There are threats at the edges of known space that the assembly is barely containing. If Earth is going to survive in this galaxy, we need to be taken seriously. The ship's engines hummed as they accelerated toward the jump point that would begin their long journey home. 5 years, Hyun mused. It's not much time. It's enough, Ju said with conviction. We'll build ships that combine our ideas with their tech. Ships that can outmaneuver anything in the assembly. And when the time comes, whether it's against the assembly or whatever threats lie beyond, humanity will be ready. As Earth dwindled to a blue dot in the distance, Admiral Ju allowed herself a small, determined smile. Let them laugh now. The galaxy would learn soon enough what humans could accomplish when underestimated. And when that day came, the laughter would stop. 4 years passed in a blur of activity. Deep within asteroid bases orbiting Saturn, Director Do-Yeon Kim supervised the final calibrations on the prototype vessel Persistence *. Power coupling stable at 97%, reported technician Suman Ba from her station. The resonance issue is solved. Do-Yeon nodded with satisfaction. The ship before them looked nothing like the designs they'd presented to the assembly. Its hull featured adaptive shielding derived from both Earth marine biology and fragments of alien tech acquired through careful trading. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Ju reviewed intelligence reports showing Vreen Empire forces massing near assembly outposts. They've dismissed our warnings 3 times now, said Intelligence Officer Minji Kang, scrolling through intercepted communications. Then they'll learn the hard way, Ju replied. How soon can the Phoenix fleet be ready? The asteroid base hummed with activity, hidden from prying eyes. Earth had turned the barren rocks of Saturn's rings into secret shipyards. What had begun as mining operations now housed the future of human space power. Do-Yeon walked the length of the observation deck, watching as robotic arms applied the final layers to the Persistence's outer hull. The material shimmered like fish scales, each one a marvel of engineering. It's beautiful, said Chief Engineer Jun-Ho Yoon, joining him at the window. And deadly, Do-Yeon added. How are the weapons tests coming? Jun-Ho smiled. The gravity lance exceeded all expectations. We based it on the Aurelian plasma tech, but added our own twist. They channel energy in a straight line. We found a way to curve it. This was how it had been for 4 years. Study, adapt, improve. The assembly had granted humans access to their markets, never imagining how quickly they would learn. In a nearby fabrication bay, Suman supervised the installation of the ship's nerve center. Unlike the rigid command structures of assembly vessels, the Persistence featured a neural interface that allowed multiple crew members to share awareness of the ship's systems. Run the simulation again, she ordered. I want response times under 3 milliseconds. The idea had come from Earth's own oceans, schools of fish that moved as one body, changing direction instantly without central command. No alien race had thought to apply this to starship design. Back on Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Pacific, Admiral Juwu studied the latest reports from their spies. The Vreen have moved another battle group to the Proxima sector, Minji said, highlighting the area on the star map. That makes 3 full fleets within striking distance of assembly colonies. And still the assembly ignores our warnings. Juwu sighed. Have they responded to our latest communication? Yes, Admiral. They say, and I quote, human intelligence gathering methods are primitive and unreliable. The Vreen Empire has assured the assembly of its peaceful intentions. Juwu's face darkened. The Vreen were predators, pure and simple, new to the galactic stage like humans, but far more aggressive. Their entry into the assembly had been marked by territorial disputes and resource grabs disguised as diplomatic misunderstandings. Only humanity seemed to recognize the pattern. Show me the latest from Saturn, Juwu ordered. The display changed to show the growing Phoenix fleet. 12 ships now, each one incorporating lessons learned from the assembly while pushing beyond what they thought possible. The Persistence was just the beginning. Behind it came the Defiance the Reckoning the Vindication names chosen with care and purpose. We're receiving a transmission from Director Kim, announced the communications officer. Do-hyun's face appeared on screen. Behind him, technicians moved with purpose across the command center of the asteroid base. Admiral, the Persistence has completed all testing protocols. She's ready. Juwu allowed herself a moment of pride. And the others? The Defiance and Reckoning will be ready next month. The rest of the first wave by year's end. Excellent. Begin crew integration immediately. I want them drill ready in 3 weeks. After the call ended, Juwu moved to the large window overlooking the Pacific. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue sky, lurked a threat the assembly was too arrogant to see. And perhaps another threat. The assembly itself, with its dismissive attitude toward lesser species. Humanity had prepared for both possibilities. On Saturn, the first crew boarded the Persistence Captain Jinhee Ryu led her team through the airlock, feeling the ship come alive around them as the neural interfaces engaged. It's like nothing I've ever felt, her executive officer whispered, eyes wide, as information flooded his awareness. This is just the beginning, Jinhee replied. Take your stations. Let's show Director Kim what this ship can do. The Persistence eased from its dock, maneuvering thrusters firing in perfect sequence. Within moments, it was gliding through the rings of Saturn, its adaptive hull reflecting the icy particles around it. All systems nominal, reported the engineering officer. Power distribution at optimal levels. Take us through the test course, Jinhee ordered. Full speed. The ship accelerated, darting between chunks of ice and rock at velocities that would have torn conventional vessels apart. The neural network allowed the crew to feel every movement, to adjust with thought-speed reactions. In his observation post, Do-hyun watched with satisfaction. Send the data to Earth, he told Suman. The Admiral will want to see this. Hours later, the Persistence returned to dock, its systems still running at peak efficiency. No other ship in the galaxy can match that performance, Junho said proudly. Not even close. Do-hyun nodded. And soon, we'll have a dozen more just like it. Back on Earth, Juwu received the test results with grim satisfaction. The ship had performed beyond even her expectations, but there was no time to celebrate. New intelligence, Admiral, Minji reported. The Vreen have begun moving civilians off their border worlds. Their military communications have shifted to encoded channels. Classic pre-invasion signs, Juwu murmured. How long do we have? Weeks, maybe less. Juwu tapped her comm unit. Get me Director Kim. Tell him we're accelerating the timeline. She stared at the map, at the vulnerable assembly worlds that might soon be under attack. Worlds that had laughed at Earth's technological backwardness. Worlds that had dismissed human concerns about the Vreen. Worlds that might soon be desperate for help. How soon can the Phoenix fleet be ready? She asked when Doyen's face appeared on screen. His answer was immediate and confident. For you, Admiral. Yesterday. The emergency broadcast interrupted all channels across Earth's colonies. Footage showed Vreen warships decimating assembly defenses around Proxima Centauri. The death toll already reached millions. In the War Council chamber, voices raised in heated debate. They mocked us, shouted General Teu Choi. Why should we sacrifice our people for theirs? Captain Ji Su-han stood, her voice steady. Because we're better than that. Because we can help. Admiral Jiwoo silenced the room with a raised hand. We didn't build this fleet for vengeance. We built it to protect. The Phoenix fleet launches in 6 hours. Across the solar system, ships emerged from hidden docks, their hulls gleaming with technology the assembly had deemed impossible for humans to develop. The emergency broadcast played again on the main screen. A shaky camera showed Vreen assault craft landing on New Horizon, the largest human settlement in Proxima Centauri. Though technically under assembly protection, the colony was home to 30,000 Earth citizens. Play it again, Ju ordered, her voice tight. The footage reset. This time, everyone watched in complete silence as Vreen ships, shaped like predatory sea creatures, tore through the assembly defense line, as if it were made of paper. The vaunted Trill crystalline cruisers, said to be impenetrable, shattered under concentrated fire. The assembly ships are too specialized, noted Fleet Commander Juno Park. Each race builds to its own strengths without covering its weaknesses. The Vreen found the pattern and exploited it. General Choi pointed at the screen. And you want us to throw our ships into that meat grinder? For aliens who laughed at us. For humans, Captain Han corrected. There are 30,000 of our people on New Horizon. Another 50,000 on the other Proxima colonies. The room fell quiet again. Earth had only been granted colony rights in the Proxima system because the Assembly considered it a marginal territory. Now it was the front line of a war. Ju looked around the table at Earth's military leadership. 4 years ago, they had returned from the Assembly humiliated. Today, they would decide if humanity would stand aside or step forward. Show them the Phoenix fleet, she ordered. The display changed to show the hidden shipyards of Saturn. 15 vessels hovered in formation, unlike any ships the Assembly or Vreen had ever seen. Their hulls rippled like living things, adapting to the environment around them. The Persistence Asterisk. Our flagship, Juno began, highlighting the lid vessel. Equipped with adaptive shielding based on Earth shark skin and cuttlefish camouflage, combined with modified Trill crystal tech, armed with gravity lances that can curve around obstacles to hit targets behind cover. He moved to the next ship, the Defiance and her sister ships, designed for swarm tactics. They can physically link together to form larger vessels, or separate for multi-vector attacks. General Choi leaned forward, his opposition softening. And the crews? Are they ready? They've been training for 3 years, Ju replied. The neural interface gives them reaction times 10 times faster than conventional systems. But we're still outnumbered, pointed out Admiral Sung Ho-yoon from the Space Command Division. The Vreen have hundreds of ships. We don't need to match their numbers, said Captain Han. We just need to break their pattern. Create enough chaos that the Assembly can regroup. A message flashed on Juwoo's personal terminal. She read it quickly, her face darkening. The Assembly has officially requested Earth's assistance, she announced. They've lost 40% of their fleet in the first wave. The Vreen are pushing toward the core systems. Now they want our help, scoffed General Choi. Convenient timing. It's the right thing to do, Captain Han insisted. It's also strategic, added Juno. If the Vreen conquer the Assembly, how long before they come for Earth? This is our chance to show our worth and secure our future in one move. Jiwoo stood, ending the debate. The Phoenix fleet launches in 6 hours. I will lead from the Persistence *. Our mission is to protect human colonies and assist assembly forces in pushing back the Vreen advance. She looked each council member in the eye. This is what we built for. Not for revenge, but for this moment, when we could stand as equals in the galaxy. Across the solar system, launch preparations began. On Saturn's hidden bases, crew members rushed to their ships. Captain Min-hee Kwan of the Defiance addressed her crew on the loading dock. Today we show the galaxy what humans can do, she said simply. We've trained for this. We're ready. In orbit around Mars, the supply ships Bounty and Provision loaded the last of their medical supplies. They would follow the combat vessels, ready to provide aid to damaged assembly worlds. On the Moon, Earth's largest military base buzzed with activity as support staff coordinated the fleet's movement. Intelligence Officer Minji updated threat assessments as new information flowed in. The Vreen have changed their attack pattern, she reported to Jiwoo via secure channel. They're targeting civilian centers first, then moving to military installations. They're trying to create panic. Jiwoo replied from the bridge of the Persistence *. Standard terror tactics. There's something else, Minji added. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from their command ships, different from their standard weapons. Send the data to the fleet. We'll analyze it in transit. The Persistence * detached from its dock, its engines glowing with a blue light unlike any conventional drive. The neural interface hummed to life as Captain Jinhee Ryu connected with her crew and ship. All systems optimal, she reported to Jiwoo. The fleet is ready for your command, Admiral. Jiwoo took her place at the central strategy station. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their movements in perfect harmony through the neural net. Fleet Commander Junho. Status of all vessels. All 15 ships report ready, Admiral. Formation pattern uploaded and acknowledge. Jiwoo allowed herself one last look at Saturn through the view screen. For 4 years, they had worked in secret, building a fleet that combined the best of human innovation with carefully studied alien technology. Now they would see if it was enough. Signal all ships, she ordered. Jump coordinates locked on Proxima Centauri. We arrive together, in Formation Alpha. Our first priority is evacuation of human colonies. Second is engagement with Vreen forces to provide cover for assembly fleet regrouping. Across the void of space, 15 ships moved into jump position. For Earth, Jiwoo said quietly. For Earth, her bridge crew echoed. The Phoenix fleet vanished in flashes of light, leaving the safety of their home system and heading directly into humanity's first interstellar war. In the War Council chamber back on Earth, the remaining leaders watched the fleet's jump signatures fade from their screens. May the stars watch over them, murmured Captain Han. General Choi, who had opposed the mission, stood at the window looking up at the sky. They'd better watch over the Vreen instead, he said gruffly. They're the ones who are going to need help. The battle at Epsilon Station was nearly lost when the Phoenix fleet arrived. Commander Dowan Park led the first wing into the fray, ships moving in formations that bewildered both allies and enemies. Impossible, muttered Assembly Admiral Grech as human vessels executed maneuvers his tactical systems classified as physically unfeasible. The Vreen flagship targeted the refugee transports, but 3 human interceptors moved to block, then seemingly phased through each other, emerging in different configurations that scattered the Vreen targeting systems. Swarm protocol active, announced Dowan. The smaller human craft recombined into larger battle configurations, adapting to Vreen tactics in real time. By battle's end, Epsilon Station still stood, and thousands of refugees had escaped. The assembly commanders requested an immediate conference with Admiral Jiwoo. The Persistence dropped out of jump space precisely 8 kilometers from Epsilon Station. Through the neural interface, Admiral Ju immediately absorbed the tactical situation. It was worse than their intelligence had suggested. Epsilon Station, once a proud assembly trading hub, now burned from multiple hull breaches. Around it, the broken remains of assembly defender ships drifted lifelessly. A massive Vreen battle group, at least 30 ships, surrounded the station, methodically destroying its defenses. Escape pods and small transport ships darted away from the station, pursued by Vreen hunters. Civilian transports under attack, reported Captain Jinny. Station shields at 12%. Estimate total failure in 8 minutes. Launch rescue teams. Ju ordered. All combat vessels, formation Theta. The Phoenix fleet spread out in a pattern that would have seemed random to outside observers. But each position was carefully calculated, a complex three-dimensional web designed to control space in ways the Vreen couldn't predict. On the lead attack wing, Commander Dowan Park's voice was steady. First wing ready. Admiral. Swarm units primed. Execute, Ju commanded. The battle began not with a frontal assault, but with confusion. 5 smaller human ships activated their adaptive camouflage, disappearing from Vreen scanners. They slipped between enemy vessels, dropping gravity mines that distorted space itself around them. Vreen ships suddenly found themselves pulled off course or locked in place. The first Vreen commander to spot the human fleet sent an encoded message to his fellows. The translation flashed across Ju's neural feed. Unknown vessels, primitive design. Ignore and continue assault. Ju allowed herself a small smile. Let's change their minds. Commander Park, you may engage. The first wing accelerated toward the largest cluster of Vreen ships. From the assembly command ship, Admiral Grek watched in confusion as the human vessels flew directly at each other. They're going to collide, he said, mandibles clicking in distress. But instead, at the last possible moment, the human ships executed a maneuver that defied conventional physics, using a combination of their neural interfaces and adaptive hull technology. 3 ships briefly occupied nearly the same space, their energy fields merging and then separating in new configurations. Impossible, muttered Grek as his tactical systems classified the maneuver as physically unfeasible. To the Vreen, it appeared as if the human ships had phased through each other. Their targeting systems, designed to track predictable movement patterns, scattered in confusion. Swarm protocol active, announced Dowan over the fleet channel. The smaller craft of First Wing suddenly began to transform. Sections detached and recombined in flight, forming new configurations adapted specifically to counter Vreen weapons. What had been 5 small ships now functioned as 2 larger battle vessels with completely different capabilities. On the Persistence Asterisk, Ju directed the main fleet forward. All ships, engage at will. Priority to civilian rescue. The Vreen flagship, a massive blade-shaped vessel nearly a kilometer long, turned its attention from the dying station to this new threat. It fired its main cannon, a beam of concentrated plasma that had sliced through assembly cruisers with ease. The beam struck the Defiance directly, and then bent around its hull, the energy redirected harmlessly into space. Adaptive shielding holding, reported Captain Min-Hee Kwan from the Defiance. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. The human fleet moved in complex patterns, never staying still, never forming recognizable formations. Individual ships seemed to anticipate each other's movements with impossible precision, the result of their shared neural network. 3 Vreen hunter ships broke away from the main group, targeting a cluster of refugee transports limping away from the station. They closed in for the kill, weapons charging. Intercept those hunters, Ju ordered. 3 human interceptors moved to block, then executed another phase maneuver, their energy fields merging briefly before they emerged in different configurations. The Vreen targeting systems, already confused, lost lock entirely. Their shots went wild, missing the civilian ships by kilometers. What is this technology? Demanded Admiral Grek over an open channel. How are you doing this? Juwu ignored the question. Focus fire on the Vreen flagship. All gravity lances, coordinated volley. 6 human ships fired simultaneously. Unlike conventional energy weapons that traveled in straight lines, the gravity lances curved through space, bending around obstacles and friendly ships. They struck the Vreen flagship from multiple angles at once, its shields failing against an attack pattern it had never encountered before. The battle lasted 47 minutes. By the end, 22 Vreen ships had been destroyed or disabled. The rest retreated, jumping away to rejoin their main fleet. Epsilon Station still stood, though badly damaged. Most importantly, all civilian transports had escaped. As human ships began rescue operations, docking with the station to evacuate the remaining personnel, a message came from the assembly command ship. Admiral Juwu Park, came Admiral Grek's formal voice. The assembly requests your immediate presence for tactical consultation. We have questions. Juwu stood on the bridge of the Persistence *, watching as her crews worked efficiently to save lives. The same lives the assembly had once deemed less important than their own. Inform Admiral Grek I'll be there shortly, she replied, after we've secured the safety of all civilians. Later, as she prepared to board the assembly command ship, Captain Jinhee approached her. They laughed at us once, Jinhee said quietly. They're not laughing now. Juwu straightened her uniform. This isn't about pride, Captain. It's about survival. For all of us. Of course, Admiral. But still, Jinhee allowed herself a small smile, the look on their faces when our ships phased through each other. Save the recording, Juwu said, returning the smile. That's one for the history books. She stepped into the shuttle that would take her to meet with the assembly commanders who had once dismissed humanity as primitive. This time, she wouldn't be standing before them as a supplicant. This time, they would listen. 1 year later, Admiral Juwu addressed the Galactic Assembly, now from the central podium rather than the petitioner's stand. The Vreen have retreated beyond the Cygnus Arm, she announced. The combined fleet has established monitoring stations along all approach vectors. The same delegates who had laughed at human designs now sat in respectful silence. The new assembly charter, displayed on the vast screens, showed Earth with full membership status and leadership of the Combined Defense Initiative. Outside the chamber, Engineer Hyun showed assembly scientists through the Phoenix Fleet's newest vessel. He paused at the prototype quantum shield generator. But how did you solve the energy consumption problem? Asked a baffled alien physicist. Hyun smiled slightly. Sometimes, the simplest approach works best. We just needed fresh eyes on old problems. That evening, Juwu stood at the observation deck, watching Earth ships and alien vessels conducting joint exercises, flying side by side. Was it worth it? Asked Minji, joining her at the viewport. Juwu nodded. We didn't build a fleet for revenge. We built it for a future where everyone flies together. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly looked very different to Juwu now than it had 5 years ago. The same vaulted ceiling stretched overhead. The same translucent walls shifted with subtle colors, but everything else had changed. 5 years ago, she had stood at the back of this room, enduring snickers and whispers. Today, she stood at its center, and the room was silent. The last Vreen battle group surrendered 3 days ago, near the Talax Nebula. She continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Their remaining forces have withdrawn beyond the borders we established in the peace accord. On the massive screens behind her, tactical displays showed the new boundaries of protected space. Red markers indicated the monitoring stations placed along all possible approach vectors. Stations built with combined human and assembly technology. The cost has been high, Juwu acknowledged, her voice softening. 16 assembly worlds lost. 4 human colonies destroyed. Millions of lives from all our species. She paused, looking around at the delegates. The crystalline trill, once the most dismissive of human capabilities, now sat with their facets dimmed in respect. The 8-limbed Volim, who had laughed the loudest at Earth's primitive designs, now leaned forward attentively. But we have shown what we can accomplish together, Ju said. The Vreen counted on our divisions, our specializations, our inability to adapt quickly enough. They did not count on what we could become when we combined our strengths. The assembly leader, a towering blue-skinned being named Exor, rose from his seat. The assembly recognizes and honors the contribution of Earth in this conflict, he said formally. Without the intervention of the Phoenix fleet, many more worlds would have fallen. Many more lives would have been lost. He gestured to the screens, where the text of the new assembly charter was displayed. In recognition of this service, and of the clear technological and tactical capabilities demonstrated, Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly, with all rights and privileges thereof. Further, leadership of the newly formed Combined Defense Initiative shall be entrusted to Admiral Ju Park and her designated successors. Applause filled the hall, a rare sound in this chamber of usual formality. Ju inclined her head in acknowledgement, remembering the humiliation she had felt in this same spot years before. Outside the assembly hall, in the main docking bay of the station, Engineer Hyun led a tour through the Innovation *, the newest vessel in the Phoenix fleet. A group of assembly scientists followed him, their diverse forms reflecting their different evolutionary paths, but their expressions sharing the same curiosity. The neural interface centers are here, Han explained, pointing to a circular chamber where crew members could link their consciousness directly to the ship. But the real breakthrough was the adaptive hull material. He placed his hand on the wall, which rippled slightly at his touch before firming again. Based on Earth cuttlefish skin, he explained, but enhanced with crystalline structures similar to Trill technology. The scientists murmured in appreciation. One of them, a Volime physicist who had once dismissed human engineering as primitive, examined the quantum shield generator with multiple limbs. "But how did you solve the energy consumption problem?" she asked, mandibles clicking in bafflement. "We tried similar approaches for centuries, but the power requirements were always prohibitive." Hyun smiled slightly. "Sometimes the simplest approach works best. We just needed fresh eyes on old problems." He didn't elaborate further, enjoying the moment perhaps more than he should. The Volime had once laughed at human, steam-powered propulsion systems. Now they studied human innovations with reverent attention. In the central command hub of the station, Min Ho Kang, now promoted to fleet commander, supervised the integration of human tactical systems with assembly defense networks. "The key is adaptability," he explained to his assembly counterparts. "Your systems are powerful but specialized. Ours are designed to change configurations based on the threat. Like your ships during the Battle of Epsilon Station," nodded an assembly commander. "We still study those maneuvers in our tactical simulations." Minho smiled. "Those were just the prototypes. Wait until you see what we're building now." As the evening cycle began on the station, Admiral Ju stood alone on the main observation deck. The vast window showed stars beyond counting, and among them, ships of different designs practicing maneuvers together. Human vessels with their distinctive adaptive hulls flew alongside crystalline Trill ships and the organic-looking vessels of the Volime. The door slid open behind her, and Intelligence Officer Minji Kang entered. She had aged during the war. They all had, but her eyes were still sharp and missing nothing. "The full treaty is signed," Minji reported. "Even the Trill High Council has approved it." They were the last holdouts. "Old pride dies hard," Minji shrugged. But watching their home system merely fall to the Vreen changed many minds. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the ships outside. A new class of vessel moved into view, a hybrid design that incorporated technology from 3 different species, including Earth. "Was it worth it?" Minji asked suddenly, turning to study Ju's face. "All those years of being laughed at, dismissed. All the work in secret, the lives lost." Ju considered the question carefully. She thought of the faces of those who hadn't returned, of colonies reduced to ash, of the bitter battles fought across dozens of star systems. Then she looked at the ships flying in formation, different species working as one, protecting each other's weaknesses, enhancing each other's strengths. "We didn't build a fleet for revenge," she said finally. "We built it for a future where everyone flies together." She turned from the window. "And that future begins now." In the docking bay below, the newest cadets, human and alien alike, boarded training vessels for their first joint exercises. They moved with the easy camaraderie of those who had never known a time of division. One young human cadet paused before boarding, looking up at the observation deck where Admiral Ju stood. He saluted sharply, then disappeared into his ship. Ju returned the salute, though the cadet wouldn't see it. Some gestures were important, regardless of who witnessed them. "The next generation won't know what it was like," Minji said softly. "To be looked down upon, to be laughed at." "Good," Ju replied. "They'll build something better than we ever could." The ships outside began their dance, moving in complex patterns that would have been impossible before the war. Before necessity had taught them all that together, they were stronger than the sum of their parts. The end.